Hello everyone. Let us now turn to question 3. The paper is Boardroom Dynamics, December 2022. Question A reads, conducting regular board meetings is a good practice in good corporate governance. Based on the above statement, analyze 5 characteristics of effective board meetings. Characteristics of effective board meeting. That is the question. Characteristics of effective board meeting. Characteristics of effective board meeting. An effective board meeting, number 1, must have an agenda. Agenda. Effective board meetings have well-defined and focused agenda that outlines the topics to be discussed and the expected outcomes. And this agenda should be distributed in advance to allow directors to come prepared. Agenda is the first characteristic of an effective board meeting. Now, once the directors are gathered, then there ought to be participative or participation, active participation. Active participation. The directors should actively participate in the discussions in the board meeting. Board meetings should encourage active participation from all the directors. And a culture of open discussion and constructive debate allows diverse perspectives to be heard and to be considered in board meetings. 3, time management. Time management. Management of time. Effective board meetings are well managed in terms of time. The chairperson should ensure that discussions stay on track and that each agenda item is given sufficient time for thorough discussions or deliberations. That is number 3. Number 4 is in relation to decision making. Informed decision making. Directors should have access to relevant information, should have access to relevant data before the meeting, such that the board meetings will so that the board meeting can be, at the end of the day, the directors can make informed decisions. They need to have information that is relevant in advance. All right, do you understand? Effective board meetings, I'm saying, involve informed decision making based on data, based on analysis, rather than relying solely on opinions or assumptions. Then the last characteristic, number 5, is follow-up. Follow-up and accountability. Follow-up and accountability. Directors should be given tasks, and there should be mechanisms in place to follow up if the assigned tasks have been done or have been accomplished. After the meeting, there should be follow-up on action items and the decisions made. Directors should be held accountable for what? For their assigned tasks and responsibilities. So these are 5 characteristics of effective board meetings. 1, agenda. 2, active participation. 3, time management. 4, informed decision making. Then lastly, accountability and follow-up. 5 marks. 5 marks. B. Cognitive biases result from the brain's efforts to simplify the incredibly complex world in which people live. With reference to the above statement, appraise 5 common cognitive biases. I repeat, cognitive biases result from the brain's efforts to simplify the incredibly complex world in which people live in. With reference to the above statement, appraise 5 common cognitive biases. 5 common cognitive biases. Common cognitive biases. B. Common cognitive biases. You have seen a cognitive bias is the brain's effort to simplify the complex world in which we live in. So the first common cognitive bias is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias. This bias involves seeking or interpreting information that confirms pre-existing beliefs or assumptions while ignoring contradictory evidence. This is the brain's effort to seek information or to interpret information that confirms the brain's pre-existing beliefs or assumptions while ignoring contradictory evidence. Confirmation bias. Then there is overconfidence bias. Overconfidence bias is a tendency to overestimate one's own abilities or the accuracy of one's predictions. And individuals with this bias may be overly optimistic about outcomes, leading to risky decision making. Overconfidence. Okay? Overestimating one's abilities. That is the second common cognitive bias. The third one, anchoring bias. Anchoring bias is another common cognitive bias. This bias occurs when individuals rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive when making decisions, even if that information is irrelevant or unreliable. It's called anchoring bias. Availability bias, number 4. Availability bias. What is this bias? This bias is based on the tendency to rely on readily available information rather than seeking out more comprehensive or accurate data. Just relying on the information that is available. That is the availability bias. And candidates, information that is easily recalled or reasoned tends to have disappropriate influence on decisions. Then another common bias to be incomplete not to mention groupthink. Groupthink. Groupthink is a cognitive bias that occurs within a group when the desire for consensus and harmony outweighs a critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints. And this bias can lead to flawed decision-making as dissenting opinions are suppressed to maintain group cohesion. This is a common cognitive bias. So these are 5 common cognitive biases. The first one, confirmation bias. Number 2, overconfidence bias. Number 3, anchoring bias. Number 4, availability bias. And lastly, groupthink. 5 common cognitive biases, 5 marks. Moving on to part C, explain 5 ways through which stakeholders could build trust through conversations. 5 ways through which stakeholders could build trust through conversations. Ways stakeholders could build trust. Ways through which stakeholders could build trust through conversations. Conversing. One way is active listening. Active listening. Stakeholders can build trust through active listening. Stakeholders can build trust by actively listening to each other's perspectives, concerns, and feedback. And this shows respect. Listening actively validates the importance of stakeholders' opinions and so on. Active listening is a way through which stakeholders could build trust. Listening actively. 2, transparency. Being open and transparent in communication fosters trust. That's obvious, is it not? When you are transparent, then people can trust you, other than when holding information. Being open means being honest. When you are honest, then trust is built. Do you understand? Being open, being transparent, being honest fosters trust. Sharing relevant information, sharing updates, and also decisions helps communicating. It helps stakeholders feel included. It helps people to be informed. So one way to build trust through conversations is by being open, by being transparent, by being honest. In fact, we can have it honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity. Demonstrating honesty and integrity in conversations with the stakeholders builds trust. Being honest may mean admitting mistakes, acknowledging challenges, fulfilling promises. These are crucial for maintaining trust in conversations. Empathy. Empathize. Empathy. Showing empathy and understanding to our stakeholders and feelings. Showing empathy and understanding stakeholders' feelings. All right? Empathy in understanding stakeholders' needs enhances or builds trust. It creates a sense of connection and shows that their concerns are genuinely valued. The stakeholders' concerns are genuinely done what? Valued. 5, consistency and reliability. Being consistent, being reliable. Consistent and reliable communication builds trust over time. And stakeholders need to feel confident that they can rely on the organization to fulfill its commitment and communicate consistently. So these are ways through which stakeholders could build trust through conversations. The question read that explain 5 ways through which stakeholders could build trust through conversations. So when communicating, or when stakeholders are communicating, these are some of the ways through which trust can be built among the different stakeholders. The first way is active listening. Number 2, transparency. Number 3, honesty and integrity. Number 4, empathy. Number 5, consistency and reliability. 5 marks. So we have answered December 2022 question 3, A, B, and C. The subject is Boardroom Dynamics. When we meet in our next session, we'll proceed to answer question number 4. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.